They had slaughtered billions across the cosmos until they fucked with the wrong species. The Tsenkethi's reign of terror spanned eons, their psionic powers and biotech making them an unstoppable force. Countless worlds fell to Warlord Laros's legions, civilizations erased from existence. Jeffrey Campbell, ex-special ops turned mercenary, thought he'd seen it all. He was wrong. Responding to a distress call, Campbell finds a research outpost annihilated, the scientists butchered. Among the carnage is one survivor, Dr. Elena Vasily, xenoarchaeologist. She's discovered an artifact, ancient, even to the Tsenkethi. It magnifies their powers 100-fold, and they want it back. Campbell and Vasily barely escape as Laros himself arrives to claim his prize. The ruins and any secrets they held are obliterated, but one clue remains: the artifact's origin, Earth. Warping towards home, the horrifying truth is revealed. The Tsenkethi fleet masses in Terran space, poised to subjugate humanity as they've done to so many before. The conquerors have grown arrogant, assured in their dominance. Earth will be made an example to any who dare defy them. Campbell grips the artifact, a relic of humanity's precursor heritage, the key to harnessing power beyond imagining, power to fight back against the Tsenkethi. All he and Vasily have to do is traverse an armada hell-bent on their destruction. Earth's survival depends on it. The Tsenkethi believe they've already won, that humanity will be just another trophy in their collection. But there's one thing they didn't count on: human tenacity, that unbreakable spirit to rise against impossible odds, to spit defiance in the face of annihilation. The Tsenkethi are about to learn that lesson the hard way. They fucked with the wrong species. As the Tsenkethi warships hung in Earth's skies like malevolent storm clouds, Campbell guided the battered freighter through a gauntlet of plasma fire and shredded hulls. Dr. Vasily gripped her restraints, fist clenched, as the ship bucked and shuddered. They hit atmosphere hard, friction flames clawing at the hull. Campbell wrestled with the controls, fighting to keep their trajectory stable. The ground rushed up to meet them, a blasted hellscape of cratered cities and ashen wastelands. The freighter slammed into the torn earth, skidding through rubble and debris before shuddering to a halt. Campbell pried himself from the pilot's chair, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. Vasily stumbled from her seat, cradling the precursor artifact against her chest. Smoke stung Campbell's eyes as he forced the warped hatch open. They emerged into a nightmare, the sky choked with roiling clouds and Tsenkethi dropships descending like birds of prey. In the distance, the skeletal remains of skyscrapers clawed at the heavens, monuments to humanity's hubris. A battered transport skimmer shot towards them, military markings scored and faded. It settled to the ground, and a stern-faced man in battle-scarred armor leaped out. General Marcus Graves, his face a roadmap of old wars and hard choices. "Campbell," Graves rasped, grasping the mercenary's hand in a crushing grip. "Damn glad you made it." His gaze flicked to Vasily and the artifact. "That the key to stopping those bastards?" Vasily hugged the artifact tighter. "We don't know what it's fully capable of. The risk is doing nothing," Campbell snapped. "This is our only shot." Graves nodded grimly. "We're outmatched, outgunned. Those Tsenkethi will roll right over us." He jerked his head towards the skimmer. "But maybe that trinket can even the odds." They piled into the transport, speeding over the broken landscape as Tsenkethi fighters strafed the ground around them. Vasily flinched at each near miss, clutching the artifact like a talisman. The skimmer banked hard, descending into a hidden valley untouched by the destruction. Camouflaged hangar doors yawned open, revealing a bustling underground base. Soldiers and scientists scrambled between hastily erected workstations, desperate to crack the secrets of Tsenkethi tech. Graves led them into the heart of the facility, to a cluttered lab where a woman hunched over a glowing array of alien circuitry. Dr. Iris Nakamura, her eyes bright with fear and purpose. "The artifact," she breathed, reaching for it with trembling hands. "I've been studying the Tsenkethi's psionic network, trying to find a vulnerability. This could be the key." Campbell frowned. "How so?" Nakamura connected the artifact to her apparatus. holographic displays flickering to life. The artifact resonates on a psychic frequency. I believe it's a conduit, a way to access the psionic network the precursors used to. The lab shook as a concussive blast ripped through the base. Alarms shrieked, emergency lights strobing red. Graves grabbed a comm unit, barking orders. They've breached the perimeter. All units, engage. Nakamura worked frantically, her fingers flying over the controls. I'm detecting powerful psionic waves emanating from the artifact, but it's not enough. It needs a catalyst, a living conduit to... Campbell grunted, pieces clicking into place. His childhood growing up on the fringes, skirting the edges of civilized space. The headaches, the dreams, the inexplicable hunches that had saved his life more times than he could count. Hook me up, Doc. Vasily grabbed his arm. Jeff, no! We have no idea what that kind of raw psionic energy could do to you. He met her gaze, lips pursed. And if we do nothing, how many will die then? Nakamura hesitated, then nodded. She affixed electrodes to Campbell's temples, his skin crawling at the cold metal contact. The artifact pulsed, eldritch symbols flaring to life along its surface. Campbell took a shuddering breath, then plunged his mind into the heart of the alien device. His consciousness exploded, hurling through an kaleidoscopic maelstrom of light and color. Fragmented visions slammed into him, sprawling cities crumbling, worlds cracking open like rotten fruit. He witnessed the fall of the precursors, their empire ripped asunder by a horror beyond comprehension. The Devourer, a malevolent presence that consumed stars and snuffed out galaxies. The artifact was a prison, the last desperate attempt to contain a force that could unmake reality itself. Campbell snapped back to awareness as the lab disintegrated around him, Tsenkethi cannon fire ripping through reinforced walls like paper. Nakamura slumped over her console, blood pooling beneath her still form. Vasily screamed his name, her voice drowned out by the roar of destruction. And through it all, Warlord Laros strode through the flames, his cruel gaze fixed on the artifact. Time slowed to a crawl, heartbeats stretching into infinity. The Tsenkethi would claim the artifact, free the Devourer, and bring ruin to the stars, unless Campbell stopped them, even if it meant sacrificing everything. His fingers curled around the artifact, the sigils searing into his flesh. Raw psionic power coursed through him, a surging tide of agony and ecstasy. He could end the Tsenkethi here and now, wipe them from existence like they had done to so many others. But the cost... To unleash the Devourer was to condemn the galaxy to an eternity of suffering. Tsenkethi and human alike would be consumed, snuffed out like guttering embers until only the void remained. Laros loomed over him, triumph etched on his cruel features. Vasily's eyes locked with Campbell's, pleading, demanding, begging him to act. Campbell stared into the heart of the Devourer and made his choice. Campbell's fingers tightened around the artifact, its sigils pulsing with eldritch light. The chamber shook as Laros advanced, his eyes gleaming with cruel anticipation. In that frozen moment, Campbell made his choice. He plunged his consciousness deep into the artifact's core, wrestling with the vast alien presence of the Devourer. Pain lanced through his skull as he forced his will upon the ancient technology, sealing the entity away once more. The artifact went dark, its power contained. Laros roared in fury, bio-enhanced muscles rippling as he lunged forward. Campbell rolled, narrowly avoiding the Tsenkethi's grasp. He scrambled to his feet, yanking Dr. Vasily up by the arm. "Run!" he shouted, scooping up the now inert artifact. They sprinted through the collapsing lab, dodging falling debris. Campbell spotted Dr. Nakamura stirring groggily behind her console. He hauled her to her feet, half carrying her as they fled. Tsenkethi troops poured into the facility, plasma bolts sizzling past. The trio ducked into a maintenance shaft, the sounds of pursuit fading as they descended into the depths of the underground base. Hours later, they emerged into a world forever changed. The skies above were choked with Tsenkethi warships, drop pods raining down like meteors. Distant explosions punctuated the air as Earth's defenses crumbled. "We've got to keep moving," Campbell growled, scanning the horizon. They'll be looking for us. Vasily's eyes were haunted. What have we done? Saved the galaxy from something worse than the Tzenkethi, Campbell replied, his voice grim. Now we've got to save humanity. They trekked through the ruins of civilization, scavenging supplies and dodging Tzenkethi patrols. Days blurred into weeks as they witnessed the fall of Earth, helpless to stop it. One night, huddled in the basement of an abandoned house, they intercepted a coded transmission. A voice crackled through the static. To all survivors, this is Jake Hawkins. If you can fight, if you can resist, find us. Earth may have fallen, but humanity will never surrender. Campbell exchanged glances with Vasily and Nakamura. A spark of hope kindled in their eyes. Looks like we've got a rebellion to join, he said, hefting the artifact, and some secrets to unlock. They set out under cover of darkness, guided by whispered rumors and fragmented broadcasts. The journey was fraught with danger. Tzenkethi checkpoints, collaborator militias, and the ever-present threat of discovery. 2 months after their escape from the lab, they finally reached the hidden rebel base. Jake Spartan Hawkins met them at the entrance, his face weathered but his eyes burning with perseverance. Campbell, he said, clasping the mercenary's hand, we've heard stories. Is it true? Do you have a way to fight back? Campbell nodded towards the artifact. Maybe, but we've got a lot of work to do first. As they entered the base, Campbell caught sight of a young woman with intense eyes observing them. Something about her presence tugged at his senses, a latent power he couldn't quite place. Who's that? He asked Spartan. Sarah Perez, Hawkins replied. One of our best. Why? Campbell watched as Sarah's gaze locked onto the artifact, a faint shimmer of energy dancing across her skin. Just a hunch, he murmured, but I think she might be the key to everything. Campbell's hunch about Sarah Perez proved correct. In the months that followed, her latent psionic abilities blossomed under his guidance, fueled by interactions with the artifact. As Earth fell to Tzenkethi occupation, the resistance grew, gathering strength in hidden enclaves across the planet. Their chance to strike back came with intel on a Tzenkethi communications hub. Campbell led a small team, including Sarah and Dr. Nakamura, on a high-risk infiltration. They fought their way through Tzenkethi defenses, Sarah's newly honed powers clearing a path. Inside the facility, Nakamura's expertise and Sarah's psionic link allowed them to access the alien systems. Campbell stood guard, pulse rifle at the ready, as Sarah's eyes glowed with ethereal energy. The artifact hummed in response, its sigils pulsing in sync with her consciousness. Got it, Sarah gasped, breaking the connection. Coordinates for their primary beacon. It's on a world called Caldor 5. Alarms blared. Tzenkethi troops converged on their position. Campbell tossed a shock grenade, buying precious seconds. Time to go! They fled through twisting corridors, plasma bolts searing the air around them. A Tzenkethi warrior lunged, energy blade slashing towards Sarah. Campbell tackled it, the two grappling in a desperate struggle. Sarah's psionic blast sent the alien flying, giving Campbell the opening to finish it. They reached the extraction point, piling into the stealth shuttle piloted by Jake Spartan Hawkins. As they broke atmosphere, Tzenkethi fighters screamed in pursuit. Hang on, Spartan shouted, executing a series of bone-jarring evasive maneuvers. The shuttle's stealth systems engaged, cloaking them from sensors. They slipped past the blockade, making the jump to warp once clear. Spartan set course for Caldor 5, a stubborn persistence etched on his face. If this beacon is as important as we think, Laros won't be far behind. The journey was tense, nerves frayed by the constant threat of detection. When they finally dropped out of warp in the Caldor system, an awe-inspiring sight greeted them, a machine world of gleaming metal and pulsing energy grids stretched out below. My God, Nakamura breathed, the entire planet is one massive computer. As they began their descent, proximity alarms shrieked. A Tzenkethi battle group warped in, Laros's flagship at its head. Spartan cursed, pushing the shuttle's engines to their limits. We'll never make it to the surface, Campbell growled. Sarah's eyes flashed. Yes, we will. She placed her hand on the artifact, channeling its power. A shimmering field enveloped the shuttle, bending sensors and light around them. They streaked past Tsenkethi's ships, their passage undetected. The crash landing was rough, the shuttle's frame groaning as it skidded across a plane of interlocking metal plates. Campbell helped the others out, surveying the alien landscape. Towering spires crackled with energy, and rivers of data flowed through translucent conduits. "The beacon should be in that central hub," Nakamura said, gesturing to a massive structure dominating the horizon. They set out, Sarah using her growing abilities to interface with the planet's systems. Dormant defense protocols stirred to life in their wake. "This place," Sarah murmured, her voice distant. "It's like the heart of the entire psionic network. I can feel the connections spreading across the galaxy." As they neared the central hub, the sky lit up with weapons fire. Tsenkethi dropships descended, disgorging waves of troops. Among them strode monstrous figures, Laros's new cyborg super soldiers, their minds and bodies warped by stolen precursor tech. "We've got incoming!" Campbell shouted, raising his rifle. Sarah's eyes blazed. She stretched out her hands, and a storm of metal fragments rose from the planet's surface. They coalesced into a swarm of razor-edged drones, slicing through the Tsenkethi ranks. "I've found the orbital defense grid," Nakamura called out, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "But the power systems are degraded. We need a massive energy influx to bring them online." Campbell hefted the artifact. "Will this do?" He jammed it into a pulsing receptacle. The hub thrummed with awakening power. Across the planet's surface, ancient weapon systems stirred to life. Particle beams lanced from orbital platforms, cutting through Tsenkethi's ships like paper. In orbit, Spartan's voice crackled over the comm. "Cavalry's here. Resistance fleet engaging Tsenkethi forces." For a moment it seemed victory was within reach. Then Laros's voice boomed across the battlefield, transmitted through his cyborg troops. "Enough games! Burn it all!" The Tsenkethi flagship's main gun prepared to fire, its terrible energies building to world-shattering levels. Sarah stumbled, blood trickling from her nose. "The psionic network! If I can just reach—" She screamed, her consciousness exploding outward. For an instant she touched the vast expanse of the precursor grid. In that moment, the Tsenkethi's psionic tech faltered. Their ships drifted, weapons powerless. Campbell caught Sarah as she collapsed. "We need to move! Now!" He scooped her up, sprinting for Spartan's approaching shuttle. Behind them, Caldor V's surface bubbled and cracked as the Tsenkethi bombardment began. They leapt aboard just as the ground gave way beneath them. As they rocketed towards orbit, Campbell cradled the unconscious Sarah. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused but alive. "Did we do it?" she whispered. Campbell nodded, a fierce grin spreading across his face. "We did, and now we know how to hit them where it hurts." Spartan guided them through the chaos of battle, linking up with the remains of the resistance fleet. As they jumped to warp, leaving the dying machine world behind, Campbell allowed himself a moment of hope. They had a chance now, a real chance to take the fight to the Tsenkethi, to liberate Earth, to save humanity. But the cost had been high, and the road ahead would demand even more. Campbell's grip tightened on Sarah's hand as he gazed out at the star-streaked expanse of warp space. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The resistance fleet dropped out of warp in a remote sector, far from Tsenkethi patrols. Campbell watched as Sarah was rushed to the medical bay, her vitals weak but stable. He turned to Spartan, purpose etched on his face. "We need to get this intel to Earth immediately." Weeks later, Campbell found himself in a dimly lit underground bunker, surrounded by resistance leadership. General Marcus Graves, a grizzled veteran with cybernetic implants, pored over holographic displays of Earth's occupied territories. "The data from Caldor 5 is a game-changer," Dr. Nakamura explained, her fingers dancing across a control panel. "We've identified critical vulnerabilities in the Tsenkethi psionic network." Akhil Gupta, a wiry man with nervous energy, chimed in. "My team's already begun reprogramming captured Tsenkethi drones. We can turn their own weapons against them." Graves nodded, his augmented eye glowing faintly. "Initiate Operation Blackout. Hit them hard, hit them fast. Across the planet, rebel cells sprang into action. Encrypted transmissions triggered carefully planted computer viruses, sending shockwaves through Tsinkethi control systems. Terraforming towers faltered, their atmospheric converters sputtering to a halt. In New York, Jake Spartan Hawkins led his team through the decaying tunnels of the old subway system. The distant rumble of Tsinkethi excavation equipment grew louder as they approached their target. "Hernandez, you read me?" Spartan whispered into his comm. A gruff voice crackled back. "Loud and clear. My people are in position. Whatever the squids are digging up down there, it's big." Campbell and Sarah, fully recovered and crackling with psionic energy, prepared for their orbital assault. As their stealth shuttle lifted off, Sarah's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. "I can feel it," she murmured. "The precursor network. It's singing to me." Campbell gripped the controls tightly. "Just remember the mission. We take out that ion cannon, give the ground teams their opening." High above Earth's scarred surface, Tsinkethi warships maintained their iron grip on the planet. But cracks were forming in their defenses. Reprogrammed security drones turned on their masters, sowing chaos throughout the fleet. On the bridge of his flagship, Laro snarled in frustration. Holographic displays flickered with reports of rebel attacks across the globe. His most trusted lieutenant, a towering PSI Borg, approached with caution. "Supreme Warlord, we've detected a security breach. Someone within our ranks is feeding information to the humans." Laros's eyes narrowed. "Find them, and bring me prisoners. I'll rip the truth from their minds myself." As the Tsinkethi Empire reeled from the coordinated cyber attack, the resistance pressed its advantage. In New York, Spartan's team linked up with Hernandez's guerrillas, fighting their way through Tsinkethi security cordons. "There!" Hernandez shouted over the din of battle, pointing to a massive excavation site. "That's where they're digging." Spartan's enhanced vision zoomed in on the pit. Some kind of structure down there. Precursor tech has to be. A psionic pulse rippled through the air, sending human and Tsinkethi alike staggering. From the depths of the excavation, a piercing scream echoed. "What the hell was that?" one of Spartan's commandos gasped. Hernandez's face paled. "They've got someone down there. A prisoner." High above, Campbell and Sarah's shuttle screamed towards the looming bulk of the orbital ion cannon. Tsinkethi fighters swarmed around them, plasma bolts sizzling past the cockpit. 30 seconds, Campbell shouted, corkscrewing to avoid enemy fire. Sarah's hands pressed against the shuttle's hull, her consciousness reaching out. The artifact pulsed in response, its power amplifying her abilities. A shimmering barrier sprang to life around their craft, deflecting incoming shots. As they closed in on their target, Sarah's eyes snapped open. "Campbell, wait! I'm picking up someone, on the station, a human." Campbell's grip tightened on the controls. "Doesn't change the mission. We have to take out that cannon." But even as he spoke, he knew their plans had just become far more complicated. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and every second counted. Campbell's fingers flew across the shuttle's controls, his mind racing. "Change of plans. We're going in." Sarah's eyes widened. "What about the ion cannon?" "It'll have to wait." Campbell gritted his teeth as he angled the shuttle towards the station. "We can't leave someone behind." They docked with practiced efficiency, weapons at the ready. The station's corridors were a maze of alien technology, pulsing with eerie blue light. Sarah led the way, her psionic senses guiding them through the labyrinth. "This way," she whispered, her voice tight with concentration. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a squad of Tsinkethi guards. Campbell's rifle barked, downing two before they could react. Sarah unleashed a psionic blast that sent the others flying. "There!" Sarah pointed to a heavily fortified door. "I can sense a human mind beyond it." Campbell placed a breaching charge while Sarah kept watch. The explosion rocked the station, and they surged through the smoke. Inside, they found a haggard woman strapped to a chair, her eyes unfocused. Wires and tubes snaked from her body to alien machines. "Katrina!" Sarah breathed, recognizing the precog from Resistance intelligence reports. Campbell severed the connections and lifted Katrina into his arms. Let's move. They fought their way back to the shuttle, Sarah's powers clearing a path through waves of Tsenkethi reinforcements. As they lifted off, the station's defenses came to life, filling space with plasma fire. "Hang on!" Campbell shouted, pushing the engines to their limit. They screamed towards the planet's surface, the shuttle's hull glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry. Sarah's psionic shield flickered and failed just as they broke through the cloud cover. New York's ravaged skyline came into view, the once proud city now a war zone. Explosions bloomed across the landscape as resistance fighters clashed with Tsenkethi forces. "There!" Sarah pointed to a massive excavation site surrounded by Tsenkethi troops. "That's where we need to be." Campbell brought the shuttle down hard, skidding to a stop amid the ruins of a fallen skyscraper. They emerged into chaos, the air thick with smoke and the scream of energy weapons. A familiar voice crackled over their comms. "Campbell! Sarah! What the hell are you doing here?" "Spartan," Campbell replied, ducking behind a pile of rubble. "Change of plans. We've got a package that needs delivery." He gestured to Katrina, who was beginning to stir. Spartan's team materialized from the shadows, led by a grizzled man Campbell recognized as David Hernandez. "We'll take her," Hernandez said, his voice gruff. "You two have a job to do." As they handed Katrina over, a young boy appeared at Hernandez's side. "Mom!" "Daniel," Katrina whispered, reaching for her son. The reunion was cut short as Tsenkethi drones swarmed overhead. Campbell and Sarah sprinted towards the excavation site, plasma bolts searing the air around them. They reached the edge of the pit and peered down. An alien structure pulsed with energy, its surface covered in familiar sigils. "Precursor tech," Sarah breathed. Campbell pulled out a data drive. "Let's introduce it to a little human ingenuity." They rappelled down, fighting through waves of Tsenkethi security drones. Sarah's powers grew stronger as they neared the precursor device, the air crackling with psionic energy. Campbell found an access port and jammed in the drive. "Uploading virus now. This should—" A deafening roar cut him off. The ground shook as a massive figure landed before them, its eyes glowing with malevolent power. "Laros!" Sarah gasped. The Tsenkethi warlord's voice boomed across the battlefield. "You dare to challenge me, here at the seat of my power?" He raised a hand, and the very air seemed to warp. Buildings crumbled, crushed by invisible force. Campbell dove for cover as Sarah met Laros's attack head-on, her own psionic abilities flaring to life. The two psionics clashed in a battle beyond human comprehension. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist around them. Campbell focused on the upload, watching the progress bar crawl agonizingly slowly. "Any time now," he muttered. Just as the virus completed its upload, Laros broke through Sarah's defenses. She stumbled, blood trickling from her nose. Campbell fired his rifle, the shots barely phasing the Tsenkethi warlord. Laros turned, raising a hand to crush Campbell where he stood. Sarah screamed, unleashing a torrent of psionic energy. The precursor device hummed to life, its sigils blazing. A shimmering portal tore open in the air before them. "Go!" Sarah shouted, her voice strained. "I'll hold him off!" Campbell hesitated for a split second, then dove through the gateway. As he tumbled through impossible space, he saw Sarah facing down Laros, her eyes burning with commitment. The wormhole spat Campbell out onto unfamiliar terrain. He stumbled to his feet, disoriented. The air smelled wrong, the gravity felt off. Before he could get his bearings, the portal flared again. Sarah stumbled through, dragging an unconscious Laros behind her. "What happened?" Campbell asked, rushing to support her. Sarah's eyes were unfocused, her breathing ragged. "Trapped him in the precursor tech. But we need to move. Earth. It's—" She didn't need to finish. Through the still-open portal, Campbell could see New York burning. The sky was choked with toxic clouds, firestorms raging unchecked. More figures emerged from the gateway. Spartan, Hernandez, Katrina, and her son. Then General Graves, his cybernetic eyes scanning their alien surroundings. "Status report," Graves barked. Campbell straightened, his soldier's instincts kicking in. Sir, the virus is uploaded. But Earth? Graves nodded grimly. I know. We're evacuating everyone we can. But we need to secure this position. We don't know what's out there. As if on cue, a piercing shriek split the air. Something huge and decidedly not human moved in the distance. Campbell hefted his rifle, acutely aware of how few of them there were, how unprepared they were for this new world. But they were alive, and as long as they were alive, there was hope. He glanced at Sarah, who was using her powers to contain the still unconscious Laros, at Katrina, clutching her son close, at the ragtag group of soldiers and civilians stumbling through the portal. They had survived. Now they had to find a way to thrive. Thrive. The portal flickered and died, cutting off their view of Earth's final moments. An alien sun beat down on unfamiliar terrain, its harsh light revealing a desolate landscape of jagged rock formations and sparse vegetation. General Graves surveyed their ragtag group, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the new environment. First priority, secure a perimeter. Spartan, take your team and scout the area. Campbell, get our communications up and running. We need to contact any other survivors who might have made it through. As the resistance fighters scrambled to follow orders, Sarah stumbled, her grip on the unconscious Laros faltering. Campbell rushed to her side, supporting her weight. I can't hold him much longer, she gasped, blood trickling from her nose. Graves's expression hardened. We need a more permanent solution for containing him fast. Over the next few days, the human refugees established a makeshift base on what they learned was Allura, an uncharted moon in a remote system. They cobbled together shelters from salvaged equipment and local materials, while Graves oversaw the construction of rudimentary defenses. Tensions ran high as Sarah's powers continued to wane. The comatose Laros, still restrained by her faltering psionic abilities, represented both their greatest asset and their most immediate threat. During a strategy meeting in the command tent, Campbell thumped his hand on the improvised table. We can't keep this up. Sarah's burning herself out, and we're no closer to finding a way off this rock. Spartan nodded grimly. We need intel, resources, a real plan. Campbell's eyes narrowed. What about the Iridian commander we captured? Zelka. Maybe it's time we cut a deal. The suggestion was met with outrage from some, but as the reality of their situation sank in, even the most vocal critics fell silent. Hours later, Campbell found himself face-to-face with Zelka in a makeshift holding cell. The Iridian's multifaceted eyes glittered with cold intelligence. You want my help? Zelka's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Release Laros, then we can talk. Campbell leaned in close. Not happening. But I can offer you something better. A chance to overthrow Laros's regime. Help us find a new homeworld, and we'll grant you amnesty. Maybe even support when you make your move against the Loyalists. Zelka's antenna twitched, considering. Finally, he nodded. Very well, human. You have a deal. As they hammered out the details, Akhil Gupta burst into the room, his eyes wide with excitement. Campbell, I've decoded some long-range transmissions. The Iridian Empire, it's fracturing. Civil war. Campbell's mind raced with the implications. He turned back to Zelka. Looks like your cooperation just became even more valuable. Tell me everything you know about the Iridian shipyards at Korath. Zelka's multifaceted eyes gleamed. Korath? A formidable target. You'll need more than just my knowledge to breach those defenses. We're working on that, Campbell replied, thinking of the disgraced Iridian officer, Avix, they'd recently made contact with. Just give us what we need to get started. As Zelka began to divulge critical intelligence, Campbell allowed himself a moment of hope. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. A chance to find a new home for humanity, and perhaps turn the tide against their Iridian oppressors. But first, they had to pull off the impossible, infiltrating the heart of Iridian military power with a handful of desperate survivors and one unreliable alien turncoat. Campbell keyed his comm. Sarah, we need to talk about transferring Laros to more stable containment. Things are about to get complicated. As he strode from the holding area, Campbell's mind was already racing through the logistics of their audacious plan. They would have one shot at this, one chance to secure a future for what remained of the human race. He just hoped it would be enough. The alien sun cast long shadows across the barren landscape as Campbell sprinted back to the makeshift command center. Alarms blared, and the air crackled with energy weapon fire. "Evix betrayed us," he spat, bursting into the tent where General Graves hunched over a holographic display. "Valkor's forces are inbound." Graves' cybernetic eye whirred as he processed the information. "Damn it! How long?" "Minutes," Campbell replied, checking his rifle. "Maybe less." The general's face hardened. "Then we make our stand here." "Hernandez!" David Hernandez materialized from the shadows, his scarred face grim. "Sir?" "Get your team to the downed warship. Strip every weapon you can and set up a defensive perimeter." Hernandez nodded and vanished. Outside, the first impacts of Iridian ordnance shook the ground. Campbell keyed his comm. "Spartan, we need those fortifications yesterday." "Working on it," Jake Hawkins's gruff voice crackled back. "But we've got a problem. Valkor's unleashing some kind of... Christ, I don't even know what to call them." A piercing shriek split the air, followed by the sound of rending metal. Campbell exchanged a look with Graves before racing outside. What he saw made his blood run cold. Monstrous figures loped across the toxic wasteland, their bodies a nightmarish fusion of Iridian and... something else. Armor plating fused with mutated flesh, razor-sharp claws dripping with caustic fluids. "Renderers!" Zelka's voice hissed from behind him. The Iridian commander's multifaceted eyes gleamed with a mix of fear and admiration. "Valkor's elite shock troops. No environment can stop them." A barrage of plasma fire erupted from the hastily assembled defenses, barely slowing the Renderer's advance. Campbell watched in horror as one of the monstrosities shrugged off a direct hit, its wounds knitting closed almost instantly. "Fall back!" he shouted, unleashing a burst from his rifle. "Concentrate fire on their joints!" As the human defenders retreated, Campbell caught sight of a small figure darting between cover. His heart sank as he recognized Daniel, Katrina's young son. "Daniel!" he called out, but his voice was lost in the chaos of battle. Without hesitation, Campbell charged into the fray. Plasma bolts seared the air around him as he ducked and weaved, desperately trying to reach the boy. A renderer loomed before him, its distorted mandibles clicking in anticipation. Campbell emptied his clip into the creature's face, buying precious seconds to slide past. He scooped Daniel into his arms, the boy's eyes wide with terror. "I've got you!" Campbell grunted, sprinting back towards the defensive line. As they reached safety, Campbell's relief was short-lived. Daniel squirmed free, his small face contorted with anguish. "Mom!" he cried. "They took her!" Campbell's stomach dropped as he scanned the battlefield. There was no sign of Katrina. Inside the command center, Sarah Perez strained to maintain her psionic grip on the captured Iridian warlord, Laros. Blood trickled from her nose as sweat beaded on her forehead. "I can't hold him much longer," she gasped. Laros's eyes snapped open, blazing with malevolent energy. His voice echoed in Campbell's mind, dripping with contempt. "You need me, human. Only I can lead you to victory against Valkor." Before Campbell could respond, Akhil Gupta burst into the room. "The warp drive!" he exclaimed, his eyes wild. "We've got it working!" Hope surged through Campbell, only to be dashed as Zelka stepped forward, a stolen energy pistol in his hand. "Not so fast," the Iridian commander sneered. "I've locked down the controls. You're not going anywhere without me." Outside, the Renderer's inhuman shrieks grew closer. Campbell's mind raced, weighing impossible options. Surrender to Valkor and save the others, or risk everything on Laros's power. Sarah's psionic barrier flickered, and Laros's laughter filled Campbell's skull. "Choose wisely, mercenary. Your fates are in my hands now." As the warp drive hummed to life and panicked refugees streamed towards the ship, Campbell made his decision. He turned to face Laros, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "All right," he said, "show us what you can do." "Show us what you can do," Campbell said, his eyes locked on Laros. The Iridian warlord's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. With pleasure. A surge of psionic energy pulsed through the ship, knocking everyone off balance. Sarah screamed, blood pouring from her nose as her hold on Laros shattered. The warp drive engaged with a violent lurch, hurling them into the swirling chaos of faster-than-light travel. When reality reasserted itself, Campbell found himself sprawled on the deck, alarms blaring. Through the view screen, he saw an unfamiliar starfield dotted with ramshackle space stations and patchwork vessels. "Where are we?" he groaned, struggling to his feet. Akhil's fingers flew over the navigation console. Unknown system, highly populated but lawless. No central authority detected. Before Campbell could respond, the ship rocked with weapons fire. A squadron of mismatched fighters swarmed around them, peppering their hull with laser blasts. "Outer Reaches clan," Zelka hissed. "We've emerged in their territory." Campbell barked orders, sending crews scrambling to battle stations. But as he turned to face Laros, he found the Iridian warlord already in motion. Laros's eyes blazed with psychic energy. A dozen human refugees stood rigidly at attention, their expressions blank. Behind them, a cadre of Iridian loyalists materialized from hidden compartments, weapons trained on the bridge crew. "I'm afraid I'll be taking command now," Laros purred. "You've served your purpose, mercenary." Campbell's hand inched towards his sidearm, but Laros's stolen commandos were faster. In seconds, he found himself disarmed and restrained. "Now then," Laros continued, settling into the captain's chair, "let's discuss our next move. I require certain information, the location of a very special Iridian artifact." "Go to hell," Campbell spat. Laros chuckled. "Oh, I intend to. But first we have a date with Destiny. Set course for the Outer Reaches Black Site. I believe they have data we need." As the hijacked warship limped through space, evading Outer Reaches patrols, Campbell's mind raced. He caught Hernandez's eye across the bridge, a silent understanding passing between them. They needed a plan, and fast. In the depths of the ship, Sarah stirred fitfully in her restraints. Fragments of alien memories flickered through her consciousness, glimpses of a vast psionic intelligence, an AI of unimaginable power. The Overmind was calling, and Laros would stop at nothing to claim it. Campbell watched the stars streak by, acutely aware of the ticking clock. Whatever Laros had planned, it spelled disaster for what remained of humanity. He had to find a way to turn the tables, to wrest control from the Iridian warlord before it was too late. But as the looming bulk of the Outer Reaches Black Site filled the view screen, Campbell realized their options were rapidly dwindling. The real battle was only just beginning. Campbell's gaze snapped from the looming black site to the navigation console. A new set of coordinates flashed on the screen, overriding their previous course. "What the hell?" he muttered, straining against his restraints. Laros's mandibles clicked in irritation. "It seems our plans have changed," the Iridian warlord hissed. "The Overmind calls us elsewhere." The ship lurched as it entered warp, stars blurring into streaks of light. Campbell exchanged a glance with Hernandez, both men's faces etched with unbreakable spirit. Hours later, they emerged in a system dominated by a desolate, pockmarked world. Shattered remnants of ancient space stations and derelict ships drifted in a dense debris field. "Archidon," Zelka breathed, his multifaceted eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. Before anyone could react, proximity alarms blared. A massive fleet of Iridian warships dropped out of warp, led by a monstrous dreadnought that dwarfed their stolen vessel. "Valkor," Laros snarled, his psychic grip on the human crew tightening painfully. As chaos erupted on the bridge, Jake Spartan Hawkins sidled up to Campbell. "I've got a plan," he whispered, "but it's gonna be ugly." Campbell nodded imperceptibly. "Do it." Spartan's team sprang into action. In the ensuing firefight, Hernandez and Keith Corrin slipped away, commandeering a shuttle bound for Archidon's surface. "What are you doing?" Laros roared, his concentration faltering as he tried to maintain control of his psychic puppets and direct the ship's defenses. Campbell seized the moment, breaking free of his restraints and tackling the Iridian warlord. As they grappled, he caught sight of Daniel, Katrina's son, his young face contorted with concentration. "Now, kid," Campbell shouted. Daniel's eyes blazed with psionic energy. The boy's raw power lashed out, creating a momentary shield around Campbell's strike team. Alarms blared as Valkor's fleet opened fire. Their stolen warship shuddered under the assault. "Evasive maneuvers," Campbell ordered, wrestling Laros into submission. "We need to draw them away from Archidon." As they plunged into the debris field, Campbell's mind raced. He knew Hernandez and Keith were hurtling towards the planet's surface, seeking to sabotage the Overmind before it could be awakened. Their lives, and the fate of humanity, hung in the balance. A violent tremor rocked the ship. Campbell stumbled, momentarily losing his grip on Laros. The Iridian's eyes blazed with psychic fury. "You fool!" Laros snarled. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Before Campbell could respond, a searing pain lanced through his skull. Sarah's agonized scream echoed through the ship's comm system. "No!" Campbell shouted, realizing too late what was happening. Sarah's final, bold strategy unfolded in a blinding flash of psionic energy. The ship's view screen cracked, unable to fully filter the intensity of the blast emanating from Archidon's surface. As the light faded, Campbell stared in horror at the planet below. Massive fissures spread across its surface, the world tearing itself apart from within. "All ships, retreat," he barked into the comm. "Get us out of here now!" The battered fleet limped towards the system's edge, pursued by the remnants of Valkor's armada. Campbell watched helplessly as Archidon imploded behind them, taking with it any hope of easy victory, and far too many lives. As they fled into the depths of space, Campbell placed a hand on Daniel's trembling shoulder. The boy's eyes were fixed on the receding destruction, tears streaming down his face. "We'll find a way," Campbell murmured, though the words felt hollow even to him. "We always do." The ragtag fleet of survivors pushed onward, leaving the shattered graveyard of Archidon in their wake. Campbell knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but for now they had denied Laros his prize. It would have to be enough. As the last echoes of the cataclysm faded from their sensors, Campbell turned his attention to the task at hand, keeping what remained of humanity's resistance alive for one more day.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.